Do you know?
All right, good evening, everyone. I'm going to call the February 4th, 2026 meeting of the Auburn School Committee to order. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, and I'll start down here on my right with introductions.
Dan Poisson, Ward 5.
Lydia Chapman, Ward 4.
Corin McGuigan, Ward 1.
Misty Edgecombe, Ward 2.
Pamela Albert at large.
Sue Doris, Superintendent.
Pat Gaudier, Ward 3.
Jay Rich at large.
Adam Platt, City Council Representative.
Scott Anier, Assistant Superintendent.
Thank you. And Amanda Couture, our business manager, and Calvin Vincent were unable to be here tonight. I'm going to start tonight with, I'll entertain a motion to enter into executive session pursuant to 1 MRSA 4056D for the purpose of labor contract discussions. Do I have a motion? Corin, do I have a second? Pat, all those in favor? We will now go into executive session. Okay, I will entertain a motion to re-enter regular session. Do I have a motion? Corin, do I have a second?
Seconded.
Adam, all those in favor? We are back in regular session at 6:12. Moving on to our consent agenda tonight, I will entertain a motion to approve tonight's consent agenda, including the approval of tonight's agenda, the approval of the minutes of the January 21st, 2026 meeting. Do I have a motion?
Second.
Pat, second. Jay, all those in favor? Motion carries. We do not have any recognitions this evening. And do I have anyone here for public comment this evening who would like to address the school committee? Okay, seeing none, we are going to move on to our presentation tonight. Dr. Doris for the State of the Schools presentation.
Thank you very much, Chairperson Albert. We're excited to present the state of the schools to you tonight. Mr. Neer is going to help advance the slides as we get started. So tonight's presentation, you will be hearing from principals and building administrators. We're going to hear from all 6 of our elementary schools, the middle school, the high school, the Franklin Alternative Program, and also a look at the district overall. And we'll be talking about demographics, student achievement, some of our subgroups, and we'll be sharing celebrations and bright spots with you. So we want you to know some of the acronyms and terms that you're going to be hearing tonight. The first on this slide, on the right-hand side, you can see some of the assessment acronyms. So you'll be hearing about NWEA, and this is our local assessment, and NWEA stands for Northwest Evaluation Association. And this assessment is used in our district for universal screening. So we administer this in the fall and in the spring, and we've been using this since 2021. And this measures both student achievement and student growth, and it's a nationally normed assessment. And there's still, in some of our slides, you will see STAR. This is an older local assessment that we used to use. That stands for Standardized Test for the Assessment of Reading and Math. And we use that for the same purposes as we use NWEA. And this was administered 3 times a year during 2020 and 2021, and before that as well. We're not sharing that data with you tonight. So moving on, it's important to know the difference between the local assessments and the state assessments. So our local assessment right now, we're using the NWEA MAP growth as our local assessment. And this assessment was used by the state in 2021 and 2022. And we have maintained the benchmarks for proficiency from that testing period. And this is allowing us to basically compare apples to apples. So we have a consistent comparison of our results over time. The state assessment, on the other hand, has switched to a new assessment. In 2023, they began with the through-year assessment. This assessment has different benchmarks, and so we can't compare our local results to the state assessment results. When the state proficiency rates came out in 2023, they were much lower than the state proficiency results from 2021 and 2022. So a next step for us is to share our state assessment results with all of you, and you will see a difference. So that will be coming in a future presentation. Okay, moving on to some definitions for tonight. So you will hear the words chronically absent. This refers to students who are missing 10% or more of enrolled school days. So we have 175 student days. Students who are chronically absent are missing 10% or more of those days. And then economically disadvantaged. This definition is students who are eligible for free or reduced lunch. So that's what that subgroup is. And then special education students are students who participate in special ed programming through an IEP, which is an individual education plan. And then we have our MLL, multilingual learners. These are students who receive services for limited English proficiency. And then minority subgroup, these are students who are Black, Hispanic, Asian, American, Indian, Alaskan, Native Hawaiian, Pacific Islander, or 2 or more races. So that's what is referred to when we're talking about the minority subgroup. And then graduation rate, this is the number of students who graduate in 4 years with a high school diploma. So we're going to move on to the first school of the night. And I'd like to invite Mr. Davis up to talk to us about Sherwood Heights.
All right. Hello, everyone, and thank you for this opportunity to share just a little bit of data about Sherwood Heights. That is what I think is really reflective of the hard work that our staff and students are accomplishing. We'll start with a really nice bright spot, which is our drop in our chronically absenteeism rate. If you can see that, it's at 10%, down from 15% last year, and that's a very significant drop, and really a great celebration. We are also, you'll notice that our economically disadvantaged percentage is down 3% to 70%, which is still the second highest rate in a 6-year span. So down a little bit from last year. Our fall assessment data is looking nice and strong against our benchmark, with our math and literacy, our reading and math scores at 83 and 82% respectively. And students and staff really worked hard, and it's nice to see that there's a slight gain over last year. If we dive a little bit deeper into our subgroups, you'll notice that our compared against our overall data, our subgroup, our economically disadvantaged students are performing really well. They're right there with the rest of the student population, and that's a really great thing to see. An area that we still need to work on and will continue to focus on is our special education population, where you'll notice that we're in the 58 to 63% range for math and literacy, but that is something we will definitely continue to focus on moving forward. And our bright spots for this year is that family engagement still is on the rise at Sherwood Heights. We have an event coming up next week we're really proud of, our Love Bug Bingo. And we also, our school-wide PBIS systems are really having a positive impact on our school attendance rate, as we saw in that first data nugget, and also a reduction of student behaviors across the building. So it's nice to see that we're making some nice gains across the building. And then our intervention teams for both academics and behavior meet regularly and are making a positive impact school-wide. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Davis. Any questions?
Hi, good evening. Congratulations on the chronic absenteeism going down by 5%. That is wonderful. Just curious, what were some things that you and your staff did to make that happen?
It's a great question. I was hoping you'd ask that. We implemented a new school-wide behavior incentive program called the STAR Card, which allows every student an opportunity to be recognized for their behavior and then also rewarded for that behavior, versus students who in the past may have struggled and they were the ones who were getting the little extra rewards because you see them making gains. This allows every student, and this is based on student feedback, so every student has an opportunity to feel like they're being recognized by the school. I think that's having an impact. Great question. Anything else? Okay, great. And next up is Michelle Gagne from East Auburn School.
Hi everyone. It's always nice to be here to talk about East Auburn. Of course, I'm very proud of the work that we do there, and I want to congratulate all our staff and students as I share this data this evening. East Auburn right now is celebrating a drop in chronic absenteeism also, where you'll see that in last school year we were at 17%, and we have dropped also 5% to 12%. So that is something to celebrate as well. We do have right now an uptick in our in the subgroup economically disadvantaged with regards to absenteeism, so we are definitely going to be looking at that subgroup as we continue to plan individually for students who are struggling to get to school. When looking at academic data, We definitely are still experiencing an uptrend in our reading and math scores, where we have increased from 91 to 93% in proficiency in reading, and from 87 to 89% in proficiency in math. So very proud of that data as well. Looking at our subgroups, reading off to the left, right now, from last year to the previous year to last year, you can see that we are especially proud of and are celebrating our special ed cohort, who in reading rose from 64% proficiency to 83% proficiency, and in math from 55% proficiency, a 20% leap to 75% proficiency, which is, again, something to really celebrate. And I want to congratulate our special ed teachers and ed techs on that amazing accomplishment. For bright spots at East Auburn, we are going to continue to focus on strong Tier 1 instruction with emphasis on best practices and doing that work, and the excellent professional development that we are doing together with the help of our coaches. We are also collaborating at all levels of support to meet the social and emotional needs of our students, and thus increasing our attendance and lessening behavioral incidents, which again, we're experiencing some nice positive celebrations in that area as well. And then ongoing student engagement through our celebrations, opportunity for leadership, advocacy, and increased student attendance. Thank you. Does anyone have any questions for me this evening? Yes, Pam.
Thank you. I just have a question around what strategies you use to accomplish the significant increases in the proficiency for your special education population.
About 2 years ago, Laura Shaw and I, and then of course Lisa Kurtz coming on as our special ed team leader, we really felt like we had a tight-knit leadership group, and then 2 full-time special educators who also were very collaborative. One of the things that as a team we noticed was that it was probably time to make sure that all of our educators had access to research-based practices, and that we were implementing them with fidelity, and also checking and adjusting over time. So really using that NWEA data and also our classroom assessments and responding in the moment to what wasn't working, and making sure that at least 3 times a year, if not quarterly, we were really looking at that data and changing the research-based methods that we were using to respond to that data.
Thank you.
Sure.
Anyone else have questions?
Anything else? That was it. At this time, I'm very proud to introduce my colleague, Stephanie Maris from Park Avenue School. Thank you. What did I do here? There we go. One more.
Good evening, everyone. I'm always happy to be here to talk about all of the great things happening at Park Avenue School. We always have lots to celebrate, and we've started this year strong, making great gains from last year and continuing forward. Our literacy and our math data, achievement data in NWEA remains solid, with 79% proficiency for all students that take the NWEA test in reading. Park Avenue is unique from the other elementary schools, where we house the majority of the multilingual learners for the district at the elementary level. Any student who has been in the country for less than a year is exempt from taking the literacy assessment in NWEA, so that 79% excludes students that have been in the country for less than a year. However, that exemption does not remain for math. So it should be even more celebrated that we have 74% of our students achieving, and that includes students who, if they've been here for a week and they're here during NWEA testing, they're taking that test. So really strong achievement data that we maintain there. For attendance in our economically disadvantaged population, our chronic absenteeism rate is down to 11% at this point in the year. At the end of December last year, we had 44 students who were identified as being chronically absent, and that number is down, flip that. We had 66 students at the end of December last year, and this year we're down to 44.
I think a huge difference, I know you were asking my other colleagues, for us, it's really having a relationship with our families and encouraging them that even if kids have that rough morning, and rather than keeping them home, we'd rather see them for part of the day. Also a shout out to our district for implementing Reach Might Teach, which has removed barriers for families and being able to communicate with school. So we are able to have those conversations, especially with our families that don't have English as their first language, to be able to support why kids are out, or asking, we missed you today, we want to have you here tomorrow, and kids want to be in school because of all of the hard work my teachers do in their classroom every day. 86% of our student population is identified as being economically disadvantaged. And you can see there's a large increase from the 2021 school year to now. I don't think that's because we have a new demographic in our schools, but our school administrative assistant works extremely hard to communicate with our families. She's dynamite in getting that accurate information so that we are able to meet the diverse needs of all of our students. For our district assessment data for our subgroups, again, we have really strong achievement. Our overall achievement in literacy is 79%. Our economically disadvantaged students achieve at 80% for meeting or exceeding benchmark expectations. Our MLL students increase their achievement from the fall of '24, with 63% of students meeting or exceeding benchmark, and 69% of our special ed students met or exceeded benchmark, so an increase from the previous year. And in math, we had an overall achievement of 74%. 78% of students identified as economically disadvantaged met or exceeded benchmarks. 64% of our MLL students met or exceeded benchmarks, and 61% of our special ed students. And the real hard work here is happening at Tier 1 in our classrooms. We have been extremely focused in the last few years on implementing strong curriculum at that Tier 1 level to reduce the number of students that are leaving the classroom for Tier 2 instruction at intervention or extra supports beyond the classroom. We implement an intervention block into all of our classrooms for math and literacy, and my teachers are constantly looking at how best to meet the diverse needs of the students in the room, in the moment, to help them be successful. So shout out to everyone from Park Ave. For our bright spots, we continue to build strong connections between home and school to meet the diverse needs of our school community through parent-teacher conferences, food pantry events, and school celebrations, promoting family involvement to recognize student achievement and success. We maintain strong growth and achievement results in literacy and math for all subgroups as a result of solid implementation of curriculum at Tier 1 and a strong RTI model and practice for all of our students. And unique to Park Avenue, we take the access test each year. Any student that's identified as a multilingual learner, the access test scores students in reading, listening, writing, and speaking. They're all completing that test right now, actually. So any MLL students exempt from winter testing with NUIA. This is the test that measures their proficiency as English language speakers. They're scored between a 1 and a 6, and when they hit the score of a 4.5, they are able to exit multilingual services as learners. And last year, 73% of all students at Park Avenue identified as multilingual language learners, and the 24-25 school year made adequate growth on access language proficiency testing. That would be like a half a point to a full point of growth for reading, writing, listening, and speaking skills, which is a 3% growth from those that were tested in the 23-24 school year. We tested a total of 144 students to measure that growth. There were an additional 30 kindergartners that took their access tests last year, but there isn't a growth measure for them as it was their first year of taking the test. Any questions about Park Avenue?
I just have one about, what does RTI stand for? What is that acronym?
Response to intervention.
Okay.
Or another acronym that we love in education is MTSS, which is multi-tiered systems of support.
Okay, thank you. Pat?
This may be off topic, but have you had any impact to absenteeism from the ICE situation?
Yes.
Could you speak more to that, please?
Sure. We have families that obviously were concerned about the current climate and unknown information or rumors that go around in the community about what's happening. Families that chose to keep their children home with them. Some families asked for materials to be sent home. My teachers did not have that expectation from me to do that, but I have amazing dedicated staff who were sending home some of the remote packets that we prepare for remote instruction, or just making connections with families. We had families reaching out that already access our food pantry or our food bags weekly that we were able to make connections with. This week, in a positive, we've seen faces we haven't seen in the last 3 weeks that have been back. So hopefully that's the continuing trend, but yes.
When those students were out, were you able to still communicate with most, if not all of them?
Again, using Reach My Teach has been a real asset for us, so that, and families have close connections with their teachers and, you know, the classmates all being a part of that too, so yes.
Just want to say a huge kudos to for the math score for ML going from 41 to 64% is amazing, and it is no small feat to have 73% of kiddos make growth. So kudos to your staff.
Thank you. The district provided us an opportunity last year to work with Andrea Honigsfeld to do some specific work about supporting multilingual learners in the classroom. We actually have 2 of our teachers that are featured in her next book, so little plug there for them. And it really not shifted, but it empowered, I think that's the better word, of the work that we were doing, to feel like we are doing the right things, we are following best practices. But it gave, you know, there isn't like a special training that teachers at Park Avenue go through to be a teacher of MLL students. They're just teachers who are dedicated and committed to their students. And they took that learning to really be like, what are the best practices I can do? So like in math instruction, allowing students to have their home language conversations and then use their learning language to share out their thinking, but making it accessible for everyone. And they're all involved in the illustrative math, which really promotes those conversations between peers in their learning, and really just focusing in on how we can create an impact with that.
Corin.
Wanted to say great job. I'm seeing the gains that you've had with the MLL students. It's really, I know that that's something that I've brought up before, like how can we reach those that are in those, not disadvantaged, but different categories. And just for the new members of the board, I wanted to let them know that, like with the access testing, the students are not exempt from the math. But as anybody knows, there's a lot of reading in math. So to see like word problems, so for them to have the gains that they have, that's a huge testament to your staff, you and your staff. So thank you.
We don't say it's a challenge, it's just part of who we are, and we are all really passionate about the work we do with our kids, and it shows. Thank you for the opportunity, and now I'd like to introduce Celeste Baudet for Fairview School.
Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to share a little bit about Fairview School. Our chronically absenteeism rate has dropped, which is a nice number. I attribute that to our teachers are making connections with families, and my school counselor, Corey Faletra, works really hard to make connections with families. She monitors attendance closely. So it's a team effort for sure. The other thing we are doing is we started acknowledging excellent attendance. We have an awards assembly once a trimester, and so kids get awarded and acknowledged for lots of things, but excellent attendance is one of those things. So I think that has made a difference as well. Our economically disadvantaged numbers have gone up. They are the highest they've been in the last 6 years. and beyond, I would say, if that data was there. I do attribute that partly to the work that my administrative assistants and my assistant principal, Mackenzie Govin, did to get all of our families to fill out those forms before that October 1st deadline. So I think that's why those numbers have increased a bit. Looking at our fall district assessment data, we continue to trend upward, and we did make growth in both literacy and math. And then when you look in at the subgroups, the same thing is true. We made growth in both literacy and math, and our special education subgroup as well, but we continue to focus on that subgroup. We're always looking at ways to provide really targeted instruction to work with those students as well. Michelle jinxed me.
Spacebar.
We joked about it, and now she failed and I failed. So there. Our bright spots, we are continuing to provide rigorous instruction in math and literacy for all students. We are working to provide interventions for students in need from all subgroups using targeted Tier 1 classroom interventions and small group pull-out interventions. And we're continuing to engage and support all staff in collaboration and professional development based on their feedback. So I think that's really important.
Any questions?
Perfect. Next, I'll introduce Amy Heimerl from Walton.
All right, thank you for having us here tonight. One thing that I'm really excited about, as many people have said, their chronic absenteeism percentages have dropped, and at Walton's that is the case as well. Ours is down 7% this year. Again, I think due to relationships that we have tried to form with our families and continuous reaching out to families and helping to support in whatever way that we can. Our economically disadvantaged numbers remain pretty similar to what they have over the past 6 years. We're at 73% of our population at that economically disadvantaged status. And again, my administrative assistant works very hard to have 100% of our forms filled in, so that has been very accurate data over those last 6 years. But if we look at our reading and math scores, we are down a little bit in the fall from last fall by 4% in reading, but we are up 3% in math. So still very decent scores in both of those areas. But if you take a look over at our subgroups, in reading, 80% of our economically disadvantaged students were meeting proficiency. 50% of our special ed students met proficiency in reading. And then if you look at math, we actually had 85% of our economically disadvantaged students meeting proficiency and 60% of our special ed students, which is commendable, I think. And some bright spots for Walton. Our commitment to both instruction in both math and literacy continues to ensure progress for our students and success. We've done a lot of collaborating professionally together and paying close attention to social and emotional needs of our students, which is helping to increase attendance and positive behaviors school-wide. And our family involvement continues to rise with very well-attended school events and learning celebrations, regular family newsletters, and positive supports for students help to increase that family and community engagement across our school.
Questions?
I have one question about around the proficiency for special education and reading. It looked like the trend was maybe going the wrong direction, and I'm curious what types of things and strategies you're doing to try to course correct there.
Yeah, and it is interesting when I look at that as well, because we've had a lot of professional development around reading and such. We are definitely working really hard. One of my special ed teachers has recently been trained in Spire. We have a long-term sub in for my primary special ed teacher. She was recently trained in Sound Sensible, which is the younger version of Spire. So I was talking with her the other day, and again, this is fall data. She was trained after the start, of the year and testing was completed. She said she's actually seeing a phenomenal change in what her students are capable of doing since she's been able to implement those programs. And so, again, there was some new learning that's been taking place. And so I'm really hoping that spring data will reflect some of those changes and training that we've been able to provide.
Great, thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions?
And I would like to introduce Mark Thibodeau from Washburn next.
Good evening, and it's great to be here, to be able to talk about some of the great things that are going on at Washburn. Starting off with our attendance, a really bright spot for us is that our chronic attendance absenteeism is down 11%, which is phenomenal. Kids are coming to school. Our economically disadvantaged is up and down, hovering in the same area. So, but it's down 3% this year. Fall district assessments, reading fell by a couple of percents, and our math scores improved by 8%, which was very impressive. The fall district assessment subgroups, special ed continues to rise, and we're up another 6% this year. Math overall was up 8%, and our economically disadvantaged was up by 10%. Our reading subgroups, again, are hovering the same. So that's going to be a focus of work for us. And bright spots. We have, recognizing what's going on in literacy, have been elevating small group literacy delivery through specialized professional development, ensuring that students receive targeted data-informed academic support. For behavior, we're using a data-driven PBS model for prevention. Behavioral framework featuring systemic teach and reteach protocols, and visual instruction supports, ensuring that we have school-wide consistency, everyone's on the same page. The Reach My Teach has really strengthened our home-to-school partnership, and the platform has it's established a fluid, positive, and multi-channel communication system for us, and we've seen a lot of positive interaction. And a really fun part that we've been doing this year too is immersing our literacy initiatives. Again, working on that part of it. Writers' workshops, we've had author visits at Washburn. Kids are visiting the Auburn Public Library. We have book clubs that are well attended, and it all's really fostering student engagement in literacy. Any questions?
No?
Okay. I appreciate your time, and next up is Ben Wilson from Auburn Middle School.
Thank you.
Hi there. I'm going to have to confess I don't wear my glasses enough, so I'm going to have to cheat a little bit, so I do apologize. But I want to thank you guys for the opportunity to talk about Auburn Middle School. I'd like to mention the fact that chronic absenteeism is down 4%. The last 3 years, we've collected 100% of our free reduced lunch forms, so we know that we've had a steady increase in our economically disadvantaged students, and it's probably going to increase again next year. Some really good news for our hard work. It is paying off. 82% of our students are proficient in reading, and 84% of our students are proficient in math. So we're finally in the positive trend. That's very exciting for us. Just because the numbers are really small, I got to switch my thing, and here we go. At least you understand. I appreciate that. So if you look at our overall growth for reading, we've had a 6% increase this year overall. That goes for all of our students as well as economically disadvantaged students. We've had a 38% increase in reading with our MLL students, which is fantastic. To go along with that, we've also had almost a 20% increase in reading with our special ed students, which is fantastic. Looking at our math, again, from 24 and 25, we've had pretty much a 10% increase overall, and that's for overall students as well as our economically disadvantaged. Our MLL students have had a 48% increase in their math scores, and our special ed students have had over a 20% growth in their math scores. The hard work is paying off, and I have to thank you all for your support with this. It's been fantastic. Some bright spots for Auburn Middle School. Now in the second year of implementation, the Math and Read 180 programs are driving progress by providing the specialized support to foster substantial academic growth amongst our special ed students. Support for MLL in mainstream classrooms has seen mainstream peers supporting our MLL community, developing social confidence in our students. We are gathering the data for this year for our access scores, but it looks as though the boost groups and our drive for putting students in the mainstream, according to Lexi Viscardi, we have almost a 70% increase in our access scores this year, which is phenomenal growth for us. It's going very well. This past year, we're starting groups for pre-algebra and algebra at the middle school, so we're adding a diversity to our academic programming. We have seen improved state test scores for those groups. This shift allows students to master abstract reasoning sooner, which aligns more closely with the elevated expectations in our standardized assessment. Recently, we've received a $10,000 grant and a matching grant, allowing us to send over 70 students to the ecology school this spring. We've partnered this past year with the University of Maine up in Orono with a Sea grant. We've sent 80 students on an oceanography excursion, learning about the industries off the Maine coast, and we're fortunate to be able to do that again this fall. So there's a lot going on.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Wilson?
Adam?
Thank you. I have a hypothetical, a little tangential to this presentation, but if there were to be sixth graders at the Auburn Middle School, would there be opportunities for those sixth graders to possibly engage in the math track at an earlier age? You know, are sixth graders too young to be getting into pre-algebra? I don't remember when I did algebra and pre-algebra, but
we are just very proud right now to the fact that we are taking students into the middle school who are high achieving, and we are actually able to support them in achieving higher scores in the NUIA tests. You know, we've done a decent job with our curriculum and aligning the curriculum with what the students need to know for their assessments. And we feel like when sixth grade comes to join us, then we will have more control over what is taught in the classroom. So there'll be a natural progression. Right now, I think beginning of this year, we had a very, very good conversation with the elementary school, the gifted and talented teachers, talking about what needs to be offered to have kids be successful at the middle school. There is a lot of math left to be taught, and as you know, the year gets busy, so there's some math left on the table, but we want to make sure that what is being taught is correct, and we'll support the students moving forward. Right now we can take students who are very confident in fractions, and we can get them through algebra by 8th grade, which is fantastic. So that's what we're looking to doing, and having that vertical teaming, again, will allow us to have those conversations to make sure we're all on the same page, so we can actually see a progression from 6 to 8, that we're not just a snapshot of 7 and 8, that we actually can have them for a period of time and get them to those higher level classes.
That's one, again, I know we're still going through the sixth grade conversation and process, but that's one thing I'm excited to see and track. I know we talk a lot about the emotional benefits of having sixth graders with 7th and 8th because they're, closer to that age, but I just see it as a one-year jumpstart on a lot of these academic endeavors. So.
Well, in those conversations that we've been having, it's been around the fact that the sixth graders come to the middle school, and it takes 7-8 months for them to get used to being in the middle school. So that's lost time. So they have a year and 4 months to become decent eighth graders, and then all of a sudden they're at the high school, and that's a challenge. Giving a slower pace to the sixth grade classes, having opportunity to get them socially engaged differently in a different pace, allows middle school to be middle school. We can get those kids, hopefully more of the kids, into pre-algebra and algebra, and higher literacy classes. That's the whole. That's the goal. That's the hope. So.
Anyone else have questions? Lydia?
I was seeing the increase with the multilingual
Yeah.
learners is incredible, and I was just
Yeah.
wondering what actions you were doing to get that result.
This district has done a phenomenal job with the support. Andrea Augustville came. We worked with the Park Ave teachers with that last year, Melissa at Park Ave. Lexi Viscardi is our MLL teacher. She has a large caseload. She has over 60 kids, but she hits that ground running. Pushing those kids out into the mainstream classes for math has really been a boon for us. Getting those kids to be social and getting them to understand that this is the pace of our school, so they're following along with the lessons of the math. And as someone mentioned earlier, math is literacy based, but Lexi will spend time working with those complicated words for them to understand it in math, and it really is paying off. And again, that Andrea Augustville has been a real boon for us as well. The entire staff partook in that training, and it's showing. So.
Pat?
I noticed you both shaking your head yes when I asked about ICE. Do you think that the students who have lost time at school, that their continued academic growth will continue, or are you going to have to put some things in place to get them caught up?
We do a phenomenal job with the MTSS in the middle school. Like we meet with teams every week. We talk about academics, we talk about social, emotional, and I think we have only had 2 students who've been out for a period of time. One of the students came back only today, has been out for over a month. Their ability to learn and to understand, is on pace with everybody. So having them back, they can pick up the pace and they can get to where they need to get to. You don't look at 4 weeks as, 4 weeks is a loss of a few lessons, but it isn't a loss of learning. So we can make that up.
Great, thank you.
Okay. Oh, Jay.
I also noticed a substantial increase with the special education students as well. So happy to see that line going up. Thank you.
No, that's a big proud moment right now. Yeah.
Are there things that you're doing Tier 1 wise to help support students maybe that are different this year?
Yeah, we have focused last year. Of course, this is last year's data, so this is this fall's test. So the work was last year, but last year we focused on planning. We focused on our pacing guides. We've seen a lot of the building is calm, cool, and collected. Everything is in place. The staff is very tight and works very well together. This is not my data. This is the staff's data. We had a big celebration today. Kudos to everybody at the middle school. Kudos to the elementary schools for bringing up our students. But I got to tell you, setting a firm pacing guide and also having the lessons be written out and practiced prior to the class starting. The teachers are allowed to focus on their academics because Mrs. Schubert, who's sitting behind me over here, and we focus a lot on the social emotional. We have a good MTSS crew, so that's not on their plate. When students come to learn, they can learn. And you'll hear from Val at the high school that if I can get a student in the building, then they can learn. And we're doing a great job of that.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Melissa McLeod for Franklin. She is next if I don't mess up this slide.
You forgot to introduce the puppy. Yeah, and Luna.
And Luna.
Can't forget Luna. Oh.
Hello, everyone. Thanks so much for having all of us here to share some information about our schools. I would love to talk a little bit about Franklin. Some other pieces on this slide that I would like to highlight is first our economically disadvantaged percentage, which you can see has a significant increase from last year. Not to sound like a broken record, but that also, I think, is driven more by the fact that we were putting forth a really concentrated effort to get as much response to that as possible, because I think we are now getting closer to what our lived reality is when it comes to our student population and their demographics. The other thing you will see almost always on our data is our chronic absenteeism. And for those of you that have heard me say this before, I apologize. But those of you who are new, Franklin often does function as a truancy intervention. So if a student is struggling at their current placement, that can be one of the reasons that we receive a referral. So as chronic absenteeism is tracked throughout the year, we have a lot of students that are maybe in a transition phase when it comes to their own personal attendance at school. And that is, our program is an attendance-based program, so that is one of our major emphasis. So you will see that number be a lot higher than I would like it to be, but again, a lot of that has to do with the mobility of our students. We have a lot of students who are coming in on a rolling basis, and so we take them and we meet them where they are, and sometimes that isn't with great attendance. So I will move on. Our graduation rate continues to maintain. We did have a 100% graduation rate last year. Again, I always say this when I'm up here, that is a tremendous effort from my staff and from Franklin, but also would not be achievable without the strong relationships and collaboration that we have with our partners at Edward Little. Additionally, our enrollment trends have stayed pretty consistent. One of the things, when we did this draft, our total enrollment was 78, and by the time I got here today, it was 85. So that's the nature of the beast at Franklin. It's always changing, lots of transitions, lots of new students coming in, particularly at this time of the year with the transition from first to second semester. And our enrollment trends as far as our Lewiston tuition students, again, very consistent. We're maintaining within that 15 to 20 student range every year. So as far as bright spots, there's always a lot, but we are coming to the end of our period of time working with the Gorman grant that we secured last year. That has meant that we've been able to fully implement our Spark programming, which was again, a little refresher, is a program that indicates that students that experience aerobic exercise for a minimum of 20 minutes, 3 days per week, show gains in academic progress, motivation, attendance, all of those kinds of things. So I can say that every student in our school is enrolled in that program and does do a variety of very interesting exercise 3 days out of the week, from dance to we have a Navy veteran who does like a Navy PT, which shockingly the students just love, and every time I'm like, just make sure they can still go to class after. But they are all participating in that. It has been a good experience. We have seen an increase this year. We always have a number of students and families who are struggling. We have seen a lot more demand for help in our program. Some ways that we have worked to face that is through collaboration. We were able to enter into an arrangement with the Trinity Jubilee Kitchen as they are expanding their services to provide ready-made meals for students and families twice a week. I drive down there, we do a pickup. It's been a wonderful experience for us. We continue to lean pretty heavily on our friends at Bates. They send us a lot of thesis students, or one of the more exciting opportunities was that their psychology of sport class worked with us in the fall, doing some data around that Spark program, because a lot of their research and whatnot does tie into that idea of the benefits of exercise. And then we did, we're just always working to refine and fine-tune those systems of support. We have a fully accessible, fully functional food pantry with our relationship with Good Shepherd. One of my teachers is an amazing coordinator for that program. And we have been able this year to provide food baskets for Thanksgiving and other holidays through the year, as well as we have a fully stocked clothing closet now with a very dedicated staff member that goes and is a lawn sale champ and just gets anything that they can. So that's our bright spots for this year. Yes.
Jay.
Are the ready-made meals, are those like take-home meals?
Yeah, they're intended to be take-home meals. Typically, the pattern that we're on is they do one hot, one cold meal. And those are bagged, all ready to go. I get them around lunchtime so our students can just pick them up and walk out the door with them. We identified some critical families to make sure that they could access them, but it is something that's accessible for any of our students.
That's wonderful. Thank you.
Adam?
Thank you. I had a question about graduation rates. It's incredible to see those numbers. I think, we've talked before, we've seen presentations from you. I think I have a clear picture of, what you're trying to achieve at Franklin, and I think it's great. My question is, you're right, you meet your students where they're at with absenteeism. You have to. It's the only way you're going to get them engaged. So can you walk us through how someone qualifies to graduate? I mean, is it just based on pass-fail in classes? Is it subjective? Is it about growth? How do you make that determination?
Yep. It's the exact same requirements for an Edward Little diploma.
Could you educate me on those requirements?
So currently through Auburn, well, and it actually is even more complicated than that. So through Auburn, our students can access the 20, 24, or 28 credit diploma. Our students get the exact same diploma, same graduation ceremonies, all those kinds of things. So they have the same credit requirements as far as core credits and electives that any student at the high school would have. Our Lewiston tuition students likewise are earning Lewiston high school diplomas. So we also manage their 24 different credit requirements to make sure that they meet that goal. Additionally, as you've heard from us in the past in the high school, we have utilized the DOE diploma for students through the COVID disruption program. We additionally do have some students that will qualify for that diploma based on transiency, homelessness, those sorts of things. I would say that's a little less common, but sometimes can be necessary for students. Our grading system is different than the high school in that we do a daily grading system. However, it still translates into ABCD kind of process. Yep.
Well, that's great, and I just want to say I think it's great that the same standards are held. I think it's important to hold everyone to the same standards. Obviously, the nuances within that is different from school to school, but I think it's great, and it's showing that you're really providing valuable experiences for these folks.
Yeah, the way I describe it to students and parents, because I interview every student and parent before they come into the program, I explain to them that, it's not a difference in what standard we're holding them to, but we're hopefully providing a better fit for the environment that they need to reach that goal. Yeah. Yes, Pat. Oh, sorry. Take your job, Pam.
Do some of your students access the CTE programs?
Yes. Yep, our students have full access to LRTC programs. We also, like EL, do welding. I was getting there, Scott. No. Have 7 students who participate in the welding program at New England Metal Works.
And can they go to the Lewiston campus?
Yep.
Great, that's great. Thanks.
Yeah, we have a smaller number this year. I think we have 4 students enrolled in LRTC programs, but I think when I just talked to my coordinator yesterday, we've got 12 applicants for next year. So it's definitely something we push. That as well as the early college programs. I think we have 4 or 5 students right now who are earning high school credits as well as earning college credits through programs at CM.
I'll just make one side note. Adam, your question is timely only because that was the topic of the curriculum subcommittee meeting today, was the graduation pathways and the different diplomas and the number of credits required, so.
It works.
Thank you.
Awesome. I would love to welcome Ms. Val Ackley up from Edward Little High School.
So I have multiple slides, so I gotta have my notes open here, so just give me one sec. All right, I am very happy to provide a snapshot into the life of Edward Little. We have some tremendous honors and accolades that have happened over the last year and some solid achievement. So first, to talk about attendance and economically disadvantaged, our chronic absenteeism is down 6%, and I attribute that to a new system we've put in place this year to concentrate work in the guidance department. So at the beginning of the year, they met every Monday morning, and it was specific to absenteeism and really tracking students and connecting with families. And then as they built those partnerships, we've gone to a bi-weekly process, but the guidance department has done a tremendous job connecting with students and families, and we're seeing that reflected in this data. I want to thank Peter Robinson for his help with helping to get more paperwork filled out for us on economically disadvantaged, so you can see that that's up, and using Reach My Teach certainly helped us at the high school to see that number increase to a more realistic number. We are very, very happy to see our NUIA scores and the trends in the data. We've seen a nice increase from 24 to 25. In 24, our participation was down. And we did a lot of work this fall to have students engage in the NUIA, have some test stamina around the NUIA, and we wanted to send the message that it's important. And so we're seeing that reflected in the data because our participation is up over 15% from last year. So we're really happy with that, and we're really, really happy with the progress that we've seen across our subgroups on the NUIA. AP and honor coursework is important for us at the high school. We have really strong enrollment. We have 13 AP exams that we offer across 12 courses. That discrepancy is we have one honors course where students can elect to take the AP exam in that content area, and we have 22 course offerings in honors. You'll see a little dip in some of the overall enrollments, but that's due to the fact that we've added over 140, well, as of today, 144 new students to Edward Little since the summer. And so I'm glad we're really sustaining in that area given the high number of new students that we've seen at EL. In terms of AP coursework, every 3 years, College Board releases the school honor roll progress report. And so this year we received that data. And Edward Little, there's 3 areas in which they provide progress. It's college culture, college credit, and college optimization. In terms of college culture, they're looking for the current seniors that have taken at least one AP course before the senior year, and 27% of our current seniors have done so. That's a 7% increase from last year. College credit, you're looking at the college credits earned through an AP exam. This year's senior class, before they go into senior year, 20% of them have earned college credit from an AP course. And the highlight is college optimization. It's measuring the number of students in the senior class who have taken 5 AP courses before senior year, with 1 in the freshman or sophomore year. We have 10%, which puts us at the College Board Gold status. We were at bronze level last year at 4%. So we've seen some really nice gains when it comes to AP enrollment and achievement. And finally, within that progress report, they give us the AP Scholar Report annually. And in 2023, we had 24 students earn College Board Scholar status. Last year, it was 29, and this year it's 34. So we are making some great gains in terms of students and achievement. It's on how many exams they take, the scores they earn, their overall average, that earns them one of those 3 levels of scholar status. In terms of dual enrollment and early college, you're seeing a nice uptick in enrollment with dual enrollment due to the fact that early college enrollments are down. And the reason why is because, unfortunately, due to money, the state has limited the number of credits a student can take in terms of early college. So now it's a lifetime cap of 18 credits, whereas before it was 12 credits every year. And so with that, you're now seeing students move over into the dual enrollment concurrent coursework. Thanks to you last year, we added 2 new concurrent dual enrollment courses at EL, Medical Terminology, Anatomy and Physiology, which is offered through CM. We also have CM College Writing, CM Public Speaking. We have courses in business like Business Management, Principles of Accounting. We have Sports Management and Coaching in the Health and PE. So we have a vast array of options for students. And due to that lifetime cap, you're seeing the numbers switch over into the dual enrollment. Aspirations is a very large bin of students because we're talking about students that are enrolled at LRTC, that are enrolled in our aspiration department coursework where we have business, we have child development, for instance, we have body and mind, which is partially PE and partially aspirations. We have a full culinary program prior to LRTC. We have jobs for Maine graduates at all 4 grade levels, which is a credentials badge-based program that we partner with. And so all of those students are in this bin. We continue to see a nice increase in the enrollments in those types of career-focused courses. To just give you a snapshot into LRTC, this year, currently, we have 205 students in grades 11 and 12 that are enrolled at LRTC. 55 have a minority status, so 26.83% of those students at LRTC from EL are minority. We have a 10% economically disadvantaged and 23% with an IEP or 504. And hot off the press, Skills USA is part of the LRTC program. They recently had their local competition, and we have 33 different competitions at the local level, and an Edward Little student medaled in every single competition. We had 12 gold medal winners, 12 silver winners, and 9 bronze winners, and so now they move on to the state competition in March, and then hopefully to the national competition in June. We did have our EMT students last year that it's a program housed at Edward Little, and we did have an Edward Little student who gold medaled at the national competition last year. So we're really excited to see the fact that we had someone in every single category for LRTC. Obviously, our big highlight this year is our graduation rate. It continues to increase. We had a nice conversation at Curriculum Subcommittee around our diploma options and our graduation rate, and the work that's gone into this figure here in front of you. It really starts in the 9th grade, first semester, and we're looking at data, we're tracking students, we're working as a team from the teachers to the guidance counselors to the administrators and all the support staff that we have. It's a true team approach, and quite honestly, it's a culminating factor and a success story for the entire district. And so this 97.4 is a lot of hard work on a lot of people's behalfs, and we're very, very proud of that number. Our bright spots this year, one that's not on here because we just figured it out today for our professional development time with staff this afternoon, was to celebrate that first semester grades are in and about 90% verified, but we have over 94% of the grades reported semester 1 from all students in all classes that are passing. So we have a pass rate of over 94%. We have winter week coming up over February vacation where we'll be offering some credit recovery. We also have credit recovery during April break and during the summer. So we'll continue to work with students that are failing or incomplete for any number of reasons. So that's a huge bright spot for us. School culture continues to flourish. We are welcoming more and more Red Eddies. As I said, we have 144 new enrollments since summertime. Staff retention remains high. School Spirit Weeks, appreciating staff in various ways, and students and staff showing great attendance at various events really builds a positive culture for us. More and more students are participating in extra and co-curricular activities. We are having great success athletically in the music and arts and with our math team. We recently hosted the District 2 Choral Festival at Edward Little, which is a regional choral festival, and we had a number of Red Eddies in that. We've added Key Club back, which is a nice partnership with one of the students that transferred to us from St. Dom's, and she came to me, and we were able to put that back in, so thank you for your support on that. And we recently received a Special Olympics grant to start a Unified Eddies Club, which will partner our special ed department with our student body, and our unified basketball team is quite popular in the school, and so this is an extension of that, with Lucy Coaches being the club advisor. Finally, Edward Little continues to grow as a community space. We are increasing the number of offerings and events, from farmers markets, one Thursday night a month, to performances in our new DMG Performing Arts Center, and then a multitude of local, regional, and state competitions within our gyms and stadiums. So that's kudos to this city providing us with a beautiful high school complex. That's Edward Little.
Jay?
I just wanted to make a quick comment that not only is the graduation rate increasing, but so are the test scores, which I think is very positive, and I'm glad to see both of those things going in the right direction. And kudos to you and the staff. I appreciated our conversation today, how you talked about we're really trying to target our kiddos when they enter the door in 9th grade, and we're not waiting until junior, sophomore year to kind of get those conversations going, getting them the supports they need. So I appreciate you taking care of the whole student, and kudos to you and your staff.
Thank you.
I have one question about going back to some of the enrollments for AP course enrollments for some of the subgroups. So I'm wondering if you can speak a little bit to the drop in the enrollments among economically disadvantaged students for AP course enrollment, grades 10 through 12, and then also again on the next slide was the dual enrollment drop, and what might be causing that.
Yeah. So when I did that data, essentially it's a decrease of 10 students within economically disadvantaged, and out of the number of students that create the enrollment for that, 58 students did not fill out the form. And that's a considerable number when you look at AP enrollment. For honors enrollment, it was a decrease of 26 students to make up that percentage for honors enrollment, and 169 students didn't fill out the form. So that's where you're seeing the discrepancy, because when I saw that, I was like, wait a second. So I dug into that data to see it was really about the number of students that didn't fill out the form, and then what that actual number is. So 26 for honors and 10 for AP.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Pat?
You said 144 new students?
Mary Beth gave me that number this morning.
So you're not going to ask us for a new school, are you? Because you're not going to get.
Okay. A pool? Can I have a pool? I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Just kidding.
Seriously, do you see an impact coming from the new St. Dom's proposal? Are enough of those kids from St. John's, or are they from all over the place?
There was a solid concentration of that number being from St. Dom's, but we've also received a number of enrollments from out of state or in-state transfers. So you can't say that 80% of those students are from St. Dom's. It's probably in thirds, if I'm honest. So.
Well, it's interesting to see how much of an impact the actual new school is having on people coming into the community and enrolling their kids in our system. So
yeah,
it's good to hear. Thank you.
It is, yep.
Adam, do you have a question?
Thank you. Lot to be proud of at the high school. I keep the momentum going, you know? We only get a $120 million high school every 100 years or so.
Exactly, exactly.
My question has to do with economically disadvantaged statistics. I noticed that in the middle school, it was roughly 66%, high school 49%. It's the same cross-section of society that's just moving up from 7th to 8th. So is that just about reporting and older kids don't apply for free lunch? Is that what it is?
Or families won't fill it out. When they get to the high school, you start to see that separation more and more. You know, at the elementary level, you've got the folders that go home, and parents are used to checking those folders. Ben does a nice job at the middle school. 100% to get all those forms back is a feat in and of itself. This year, we saw Peter really helped us with a Google form embedded in a Reach My Teach. I had started emailing individual families to get them to fill out the form. And next year, we're going to use guidance staff to help us with that. So we're looking to get even more filled out. We just certainly aren't anywhere near reporting what it should be for a number there.
Yeah, I would imagine it's a chore to get everything in. So I guess, is my presumption correct that when looking at the economically disadvantaged numbers for elementary schools, that may be a better indicator of the economic disparities of those students? As you get up to the high school, harder to tell because it's not being fully reported.
Correct. Yeah.
A question. You had mentioned that there was a limit, cap for 18 credits for some of those classes. Is there a limit for the dual enrollment classes with CM, or are those unlimited?
So we've created a partnership with CM specifically. Mary Beth Galway, our guidance director, has worked with them around this lifetime cap. So we're registering students in a unique way to make sure that if they want to take an early college class, we register them there first, and then CM, because we're offering it on site with our teachers, we're not putting that into that 18 credit equation. So we're holding back to register for public speaking second semester, so that if any of the public speaking students want to take an early college class, we register there first, and then we'll register for CM later. Yep.
Any other questions?
Thank you so much.
We're now going to move on to the district overview, and you are going to hear many of the things that you have heard already from our principals and administrators. So we're going to start off with attendance, and overall our attendance has improved with a drop in our chronically absent rate from 25% to 20% this year. And then you'll also see that increase in the economically disadvantaged percentage from 55 to 60%. And like others, we are attributing this to completing the forms. And our new Reach My Teach platform has been instrumental in that. And then if we move to the fall district assessment, we're seeing an increase in student achievement levels in both reading and math this year. Reading proficiency increased from 81% to 84%, and math proficiency increased from 78% to 84%. And that 84% is the highest it's been. So that's a real celebration. And then when we go to the subgroups, you're also seeing improvements there in all groups, trending upwards. For reading, economically disadvantaged from last year to this year, 77% to 80%. Our multilingual learners from 51% to 62%. And our special education subgroup from 59% to 64%. And in math, same trends, economically disadvantaged from 73 to 82%. Our multilingual learners from 40% to 62%, which is significant there. And then special education from 53% to 63%. So you've heard tonight folks talking about what do we attribute that to, and we have had some great professional development over the last 2 years. So teachers have improved their strategies, and then we also have an increased use of evidence-based interventions, such as the Read 180 and Math 180 programs that I've heard about tonight, along with Spire and other reading programs to help students. So moving along to the bright spots, we have so much to be proud of here in the Auburn School Department, and over again, we've heard thanks to our staff, and I just want to reiterate that we have a phenomenal administrative team here, along with an excellent staff who works very, very hard to support our students. So overall, bright spots, you've seen the gains in literacy and math scores this year, and we've maintained a bump up since we put in place our core curriculum. The graduation rates continue to increase. Attendance has improved. Student achievement across subgroups has improved. And the Reach My Teach platform has really strengthened our homeschool communications across the district. Auburn students continue to benefit from the expanded career and technical education programming, as well as grant-funded programs like you heard about at Franklin, and community-based supports. And the new Performing Arts Center has become a regional draw and a source of pride for both the city and the school department. And I do want to mention the strong collaboration with the city. This supports shared planning, facilities, and fiscal stewardship. And then I just want to reiterate again, as we've talked about tonight, highly qualified and dedicated administrators, teachers, and support staff are the foundation of our success, and we thank them. We often refer to this as our world-class team. We thank them for everything that they do for our students. And that's it. So, any further questions?
Corin?
Not so much a question, but I'm very pleased to see the gains that we've been seeing, especially in the subgroups, because it's always been something, as I've sat here and watched the and seen the other presentations over the last years, we've seen gains, but then in the subgroups we didn't see them, and it's kind of broken my heart. And so to see that what we're doing is working really makes me feel good, and I'm really very proud of Auburn's teachers and administrators, and thank you for all you do.
Absolutely. Anyone else have any thoughts or questions before we move on? Thank you to all of you for presenting tonight. This is always one of my favorite presentations of the year. It's great to see, just to hear about every school individually and to see all of the great work that you guys are doing, and clearly it's being reflected in our proficiency scores. Okay, thank you. So moving on, we do not have a school committee student representative report. Dr. Dorst, do you have a superintendent's report?
I have nothing further tonight.
Okay. I do not have a chairperson's report tonight. Adam, do you have anything to update from the city council?
Nope, just that the city council thanks all the members of the school committee that were there on Monday to start the budget deliberation.
Excellent, thank you. Moving on to our committee reports. So the policy subcommittee agenda and minutes are linked from the January 20th meeting. That's going to be discussed later on our agenda. And then the curriculum subcommittee agenda from tonight's meeting is linked, where, as I think we mentioned, we discussed the various diplomas offered at Edward Little. That was a great discussion. Those minutes will be linked on our next agenda. We do not have any old business tonight, so moving on to new business, I will entertain a motion to ratify the collective bargaining agreement between the Auburn School Committee and the Auburn Education Association for Food Service Unit. Do I have a motion? Corin, do I have a second? Jay? Do I have any public comment tonight on this? It doesn't look like I have anyone here for public comment. Do I have any committee thoughts, discussion? I do just want to give a couple highlights of what the updated food service contract agreement entails. So it reflects a collaborative and respectful bargaining process between both the school committee and the Auburn School Education Association. Several kind of the highlights, it reflects a 3% annual wage increase for both full-time and part-time food service employees. A multi-year wage schedule that supports recruitment, retention, and stability. It also includes improvements to leave benefits, including 2 additional sick days for full-time employees, updated family leave to reflect current law, and an updated bereavement leave that's consistent with some of our other Auburn School District contracts. We have also added Indigenous Peoples Day as a paid holiday for both full-time and part-time employees, and added enhanced longevity benefits that better recognize long-term service. Specifically, I want to shout out, we added longevity benefits for both 35 and 40 years of service, because we actually have food staff employees who have been with the Auburn School Department for 40 years, which is really amazing, and that was really interesting to learn as someone this is both me and Corin's first time negotiating with this unit, so that was amazing. We have some extremely dedicated staff in this unit. We just want to acknowledge the important and often behind-the-scenes work of our school food service staff. These employees play a critical role in ensuring students have access to safe, nutritious meals that support learning and well-being. And this agreement reflects the committee's commitment to valuing and supporting their essential work while remaining fiscally responsible. Do we have any other thoughts or discussion before we vote? Okay. So all those in favor of approving the collective bargaining agreement between the Auburn School Committee and the Auburn Education Association Food Service Unit. All those in favor? Motion carries. Thank you. Moving on, I'll entertain a motion to approve policy AUB-KB, parent involvement in education for first reading. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Pat, do I have a second?
Second.
Misty? Thoughts, discussion, questions on this policy? Jay?
Yes, when I was reviewing it, I appreciate that the term parent explicitly states guardians and other family members. However, I am concerned about it being the only term used in the policy. Was there any discussion about changing the term to something more inclusive that represents the various type of home dynamics? So for example, foster homes, residential homes, or other situations where students may live with relatives or people other than their biological parents.
Anyone from the policy subcommittee want to address that in your discussion?
There's a cross-reference to the definition in the FERPA policy that includes the things that you're talking about.
Does that answer your question, Jay?
We did discuss, should we put all of that in there, or should we just reference the definition that is in the FERPA policy? And we decided to just reference that because in all of our policies, that's really where the definition belongs, is in the FERPA policy. And the parent guardian piece comes up frequently in many policies. So we just felt at that point that we would reference the one policy that has the longer definition.
The only notes that I had when I was reviewing this was that would be to use student or students consistently throughout, because we use student in most places, but then there were just a couple of places where we say child or children under like, it was D, F, and then again under A, G, L. And so I would just like to see it be consistent with student or students versus child and children.
Okay.
Does anyone have any issue with making that small wording change?
No, we had talked about that anyway. I think
Okay.
it was probably in the.
Yeah.
Or made just an oversight? Okay. Any other questions, discussion?
Well, I guess my question is, are we voting on it as written, or are you proposing an amendment to change certain words?
I can propose an amendment if we want to vote on it. In the past, for slight wording changes, we've just voted on the motion with the understanding that we're going to update the language.
Okay, great.
So,
yep, that's fine
yeah.
with me. I just want to make sure I was on
Yeah.
the same page.
Anyone else have any other? Okay, so all those in favor, let me get back to my right screen here. Where'd it go? So all those in favor of approving policy AUB-KB, parent involvement in education for first reading with those minor wording changes to update child and children to student and students. All those in favor? Motion carries. Moving on to, I'll entertain a motion to approve procedure AUB-KCB, community involvement in decision-making for a first reading. Do I have a motion? Corin, do I have a second? Dan, okay. Any thoughts, discussion on this policy? Anyone from the committee want to just give a brief discussion or update about your discussion in the subcommittee?
I think we were just trying to simplify the words in there just to make it easier to read and match the MSA.
Yep. The only note I had here was I think there was at least maybe one or two places where board needs to be replaced with committee still.
Yes,
Just
we
for
can do that.
consistency. Yeah, and probably just a minor oversight. Any other thoughts, discussion on this? Okay. So seeing none, all those in favor of approving procedure AUB, KCB, community involvement in decision-making for a first reading? Motion carries. We have all of our upcoming meetings listed. This is the only regular school committee meeting that we have during the month of February because of school vacation. So just make sure that you make a note of that. So our next regular school committee meeting will be on March 4th, and that will be the start of our first budget meeting. And then we will be here every Wednesday in March for budget meetings. Do I have any future agenda items or requests for information? Okay, seeing none, I will entertain a motion to adjourn. Corin, second. Adam, all those in favor? We are adjourned at 7:36. Thank you, everyone.